Welcome to CreatureGeek, the special effects makeup podcast from the fan and pro perspective. I am Len Peralta.
And I'm Frank Ippolito.
And I'm Norman Chan.
Yeah, wait, you ruined it.
Oh, you just blew it, Norm.
Now everybody knows that you're sitting there, Norm. Well, that's all right. Yeah. Let's just pretend that just didn't happen. And let me do my little intro for our secret guest, everybody. Today's guest is one of the co-founders of Tested.com, that very website that gives CreatureGeek a home. And if you don't know who he is, then why you're listening to this show. According to his bio at Tested, Norm loves learning new photography tricks, is fascinated by comic book and cosplay culture, and is still on the hunt for the perfect pair of headphones. Would you please welcome to CreatureGeek, Norm Chan.
Hey, Norm. Hey, this is all, we're celebrating the season of October.
Yeah.
I'm drinking an Elysium Night Owl Pumpkin Ale. For all you in the video world, you can see our
It was what was in Han Solo.
pumpkin.
Oh, there you go. And who makes that?
Elysian? Night Owl?
Elysium. Okay.
Elysian with an N. Night Owl
So that is,
Pumpkin
they are
Ale.
not, by the way, they are not one of our sponsors.
No.
But
I'm just giving you a taste-by-taste Halloween season of pumpkin ales. This is brewed with over 7 pounds of pumpkin per barrel.
Real pumpkin or squash?
It says, this isn't canned pumpkin.
Got it.
now, does it taste like pumpkin? Can you
I think
get that pumpkin taste?
this is a very tasty pumpkin ale.
Hey, nice, very good. Very
Just
good.
like every other white girl in America, I love pumpkin and all my things in the
Love
fall.
pumpkin. The month of October is just full of pumpkin. So
It's Han Solo
The
season.
month of mango is over.
that was what was that? Was that September? Was the month of mango?
Yeah. I believe so.
We'll go with that. So welcome to Tested. This is a first. You usually are the one doing the interviewing. Now you are on the other side. The worm has turned, so to speak, and you are.
It's some Ouroboros shit.
Well, I mean, this is from the fan and pro perspective, so I
And-
think it's only appropriate to have people other than pros on as guests.
Another fan.
Yes.
Gang up on you, Frank.
So-
All
Go
right.
ahead, Frank.
No. You can gang up on me. That's fine. I usually gang up on Len.
I'm not here to gang up on you. We're here to chat. We're here to chat. Have a nice chat for a few minutes with Norm. So
Hey, so before we get into Norm, you went and saw some haunted house shit with
I did.
Robert Kurtzman.
Yes.
Tell us about your haunted house expeditions.
A couple weeks ago, we had Robert Kurtzman on the show, and he during the show or after the show, he invited me out to go to Crestline, Ohio, to go see his Creature Core workshop,
Which is technically the middle of nowhere in Ohio.
It is literally in the middle of nowhere. It's about an hour and a half away from me, and I'm near Cleveland, so it's a nice day trip. We just took it out there, and his shop is right in the. It's just like this nondescript gray building, but once you get in there, it's huge. There's so much stuff in there, so much cool stuff. His assistant Marcia Mattern gave me and my wife a nice tour of the facility, and we got to see a lot of cool stuff that he was working on. Some new movies
Things you
that
can't talk about.
That can't talk about it, but I got to see some really cool stuff, and it is really neat to see a shop that it's working. Just to give the professionals in just kind of a perspective on what kind of shop Bob is running. I asked him. I said, this is a pretty big shop. He said, yeah, this shop is about the same size as K&B. So
That's what, like
space-wise.
40,000 square feet, 50,000 square feet?
It's not, I don't think it's 50,000, but it was pretty good. It went on for a while. There was, I want to say, I've been to your shop. If anybody's ever been to Frank's shop, I want to say it was probably about 4 or 5 of your shops.
Yeah, mine's about 2,500 square feet.
Okay. So
About 10,000 square feet.
Yeah.
So it was really cool to see.
10,000 is a good amount of space. Yeah.
Is that space more divided between how much of that is storage versus how much of that is having, separate mold paint departments and in front of
not
office?
not a whole lot of storage. Some of that was used for like the front of house, just kind of gallery stuff. The minute you walk into his shop, there's all like stuff that he's worked on for over the years. that kind of stuff. So like kind of like the glitz and glamour. And then you go through these doors, and obviously that's where the working shop is. And it went on for a while. It was really, really neat. For fans of Face Off, I got to meet
Becky and House.
House. David Greathouse.
Yeah.
Who was working on some stuff out there. So it was really cool. Then afterwards, Marcia took us over to the Paranormal Penitentiary, which is at the Mansfield Reformatory. For those of you
which is also in the middle of nowhere in Ohio.
Also in the middle of nowhere. It is about 20 minutes away from Crestline.
20 minutes away from the middle of nowhere?
20 minutes away from nowhere. But for those of you keeping score, Mansfield Reformatory is where they shot Shawshank Redemption. So there's still a lot of like Shawshank stuff kind of hanging around there. But during the month of October, because the Mansfield Reformatory is a historic site, this is how they make their money. They turn it into a haunt, and this is Robert's first year doing the haunt. And I gotta say, and we'll talk a little bit more about haunted houses in a little bit, but this place.
Did you pee?
Well, I didn't go. I told you I didn't go through it because my wife had no interest in going through the haunt. So that meant I would have to go through it by myself, and I just wasn't up for that. Like,
my gosh, Len, that's the most pussy thing I've ever heard.
I am an old man. I am in bed by like 10:30. So it's I've got a family to anyway, but that doesn't matter. Regardless, no. But here's the thing about it though. I went through that place, and Marcia just kind of walked through it, and I got to tell you, it's $20 to get in, $30 to go through the speed pass. You are getting your money's worth if you go out there, because just like a quick tour through. It took us about 45 minutes just walking through.
Flying through it?
Yeah. It's 45 minutes to an hour. It just kept going on and on and on. And it just, there were parts in there that during the daytime I was terrified to go, because you have to go down these dark hallways. You have to go through like solitary confinement.
Oh, and the reformatory is like just a creepy building without Halloween. Have you ever been to like old shut down prisons and stuff like that?
Yeah,
like
Alcatraz.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Mansfield Reformatory, it makes Alcatraz look like Coney Island. Like it's like Alcatraz is so like there's nothing scary about that.
Well,
like
the one thing it has going for it, the difference in Alcatraz is that the architecture of it is just so beautiful. It does not look anything like a prison from the outside, and that was by design. They wanted it to look. They wanted to be like a spiritual rebirth, so it looks like it looks like a church on the inside and on the outside. So it looks really strange. It doesn't. It's supposed to inspire. But
it's
when you get in there,
epic old building. It's really cool.
So when they turn that
crazy.
into a haunt, and they said this is the first year they've done it, like they have so much of this canvas to convert it.
I think this is the first year that Kurtzman's done it.
Yeah, this is the first year that Kurtzman's done it.
This is it's kind of like how they turned the Queen Mary into a haunted house, or like I think that there's a boat up in the bay that they turn into a haunted house. Like
how many people work in that when it's fully operational as a haunt?
Oh, well, let me think here. I want to say they had about 50 or 60 actors that were all coming in at that time, and they're all paid. It's not like a volunteer gig or anything like that. I mean, they're actually working on it, and and the other interesting thing about it, because it's a historic site, everything that they created, the whole walkthrough, none of it could be like nailed in or screwed in or anything like that. So. Everything had to be self-contained, and there were some scares in there that there's a staircase, and at one point, and there's a big wheelchair that comes barreling down at you, and then it just stops. Right, it makes a loud sound, and I looked, and it was all just like strapped in. They couldn't do anything, So I'm like, aren't you afraid that like if this thing comes down at it's gonna like fall off? He goes, well, there's nothing we can do. You can't you can't go into the wood or the concrete or anything.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
That's some design challenge.
So
yes,
in terms of haunts, is now the time to talk about
let's talk about
spectrum
haunts.
of haunts, because we're coming up to Halloween, and now is the time when they're all being built out.
No,
Frank,
they should. They're more than built out. They're open.
Yep, and they're open now. Frank, I'm sure you've done many of them.
Yeah, I started off my industry doing haunt stuff in Ohio.
What's the scariest thing you've seen in a haunt, or a thing that you've heard about that gets people riled up and gets people terrified? Because is it just like jump scares? Is it like creepy sounds, lighting?
It's different for everyone. Like,
yeah, it is.
I mean, some
one
people.
Thing. Well, I remember going to haunted houses in the 80s, and it was like always like a haunted JC's. Like there was a local JC's that put it on, so it'd be guys with masks and stuff like that.
Yeah, isn't Bloodview in Ohio the local JC's?
No, Bloodview. Well, I believe it was run by JC's, but then they started changing it. They actually started doing makeup. They started doing like actual stuff that you can buy from Bob's shop. You know, they could get like things and masks, even from like George's place at Immortal. They would start using masks and actual things like that. So it sort of changed over time, and it's weird because this part of the country here is kind of like the renaissance for like haunts and scares. Lots of haunted houses.
You know, it's weird. There's such a huge amount of haunts in Ohio, like northeastern Ohio specifically. And Ohio and Chicago are like the biggest regions for haunted houses. It blows my mind that it's those two kind of strange cities.
Geographical phenomenon, maybe the amount of space they have, or the history of buildings. Out west, we don't have as much and many old buildings, but like, you know, we have. I don't think they turn Winchester into a haunt.
No.
But back to my question, like, what is the thing that really feels inventive in haunts? Like, is it walking into a room and, you know, are they things being acted out, or what's? Sell me on the haunt. I'm not in it for the jump scare. I'm in it for the creativity.
I think the jump scare is like low hanging fruit.
Like,
yeah. Well, what gets me, and there were parts on this tour, like I said, we went during the day and went through it, and there were parts that made me uncomfortable just going through it and just thinking about the actual scare that you would have to go through. For example, you walked up this rickety staircase, this rusted old staircase, into this hallway, which was all offices. But where that is, it's completely dark. So you don't know where you're turning, that kind of thing. And you know something's there, but I just got really uncomfortable because the hallways were very small, kind of claustrophobic, and that just made me really uneasy. I think that's not inventive, but I think it's, once again, it comes down to the what's in your mind is more frightening.
Right. It taps into your psyche, taps into the common fears. Now, do these haunts offer? I assume they change year to year. So what happens after Halloween? Like, is there an opportunity to visit the haunts and see how everything was put together?
I think a lot of haunts there's permanent locations, and then there's ones that get put up once a year. Like you go to a giant theme park; those for the most part get put up once a year.
Right.
And then there's a bunch of places like in Ohio, like all around the country, that have permanent locations where they tinker on them all year round. Like I know in Ohio. The one that's really good at that is Haunted Schoolhouse and Laboratory.
Oh, in Akron, right?
Yeah, down in Akron. And they have a permanent facility, and they fiddle on it every year. So not much necessarily changes from year to year, but they'll upgrade a room or upgrade a zone.
Yeah, I want to say that Bloodview has a permanent location. Like it's just this kind of creepy looking house that they sort of added onto, and so that's there. Cedar Point, which is about 45 minutes west of here, has their Hollow Weekends and things like that. So they sort of like, and they're sort of like a high end haunt.
Yeah,
like
well, Cedar Point is part of a larger company, Cedar Fair, which also owns Knott's Berry Farm. Which I don't know if you heard about this in the news, Len. Knott's Berry Farm and Cedar Fair had to pull one of their haunts because people were offended. They had a VR experience where they have these like little like solo haunt experience where a small group of people go in, you put on a VR headset, and this one specifically was called like 5150 blah blah blah. 5150 is a reference to a like a psychological like it's where you're admitted and you're not of your own will or something like that. Yeah. And it's like a VR thing where there's like some telekinetic, crazy person that's like messing with you, and you're strapped into a wheelchair, and it's like 5 minutes or something like that.
Right.
But people with mental disorders were offended that they called it 5150, and so Knott's Berry Farm and Cedar Fair pulled it. And I heard something on NPR where they were talking to somebody like a representative from the mental health wellness, blah blah blah, and he was saying how they've made like burger joints pull burgers off their menu for being called the 5150 burger because it's so crazy hot. Yeah, this is insane to me. Like Halloween, like it's
who would even know that?
No,
I only know 5150 is a Van Halen album.
Yeah, well, no, it's people that have mental illness, or some of them are offended because it's making fun of, I guess, in some way, like a mental illness. Have you heard? Did you hear anything about this, Norm?
I haven't heard of it.
I think that this is nuts. Like Halloween is kind of like open, like like crazy telekinetic, institutionalized, like whatever. Like that's a scary, haunted.
The mental institution in general is a long-running trope, and in horror, in terror, in Halloween, from video games to movies, TV shows. So I'm not sure. I got to read the story to see exactly what they had issue with. My question, and my angle is always technology, is I assume haunts don't let you take video inside because they want people to spoil any of it.
Yeah,
right?
no.
But
there's no way you would be able to.
It's so dark.
The cameras are pretty amazing today, and it would be fun to go through. But regardless, would any offer the ability to have you strap on a rig so the camera is like a GoPro and a light is facing at your face? It's like a wide angle view of your face, so you're wandering through it, and you can relive exactly how you looked as you were being terrified.
That's pretty fascinating. I got invited to Knott's Berry Farm's media night this year. That's the only haunted house I've been to so far this year. And there were some people wandering around with cameras that were going through the thing. I bet you we could probably figure out a way to put a GoPro rig on you next year.
Sure. Right. I don't want to give away all of the stuff and ruin the experience of people. But I like the idea of pointing a camera at yourself and then going through a haunt and getting those freak out moments. And maybe you see things in the peripheral and people chasing you or something. But I think that would be really neat.
Well, they sort of do that, not with a GoPro, but with a camera. There was a haunted house that's been doing it over the past couple years where there is a point in the house where they'll take a picture of a scare. So there'll be like a flash of light, and then they'll get the people's looks as they're getting scared.
Yeah,
so
I've seen those, yeah.
It's sort of what you're talking about, but I think you're talking about it's a moving image that you get to watch.
The whole experience from beginning to end, talking. And maybe that's reassuring if a camera's, filming you. I mean, it's very stylistic of a horror film, back in the mid-aughts, of that kind of first-person view, that kind of Blair Witch look.
Yeah.
So I'd be interested. I mean, it wouldn't be difficult to build that rig out.
No. And then it's something.
Do it. I volunteer to go through.
Plus, it's something you could. Plus, something you could sell afterwards after they get out.
Exactly. Yeah.
Perfect.
There was a haunt in Ohio. I believe it was like Hudson Haunted House or something like that, where there wasn't like all that spooky lighting that's in a haunted house. They gave you a flashlight. And so you had to go through with this, they'd give you one at the entrance, and they'd take it from you at the end, which was always a fascinating concept to me, because then the actors know exactly where you are
and where you're looking. That's right. And again, what I would do is I would design custom flashlights that when you go through certain parts of the haunt,
it flickers or something?
It would flicker and it would turn off, and you would trigger
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, a lot of inventive things. I love that.
All the technologies. When was the last time you went to a haunted house?
Years, college.
Really?
Yeah, I've been one. I'm not the biggest fan of being scared, so maybe a group activity. Again, that's why if I can get content out of it, make a good video out of it, then that would convince me to go through. But premium content, maybe.
Yeah, I almost went to Universal's Halloween Horror Nights last week, but I was feeling a little under the weather, so I didn't make it out. But I want to go hit that. I've gone to that a couple of times, and Halloween Horror Nights is consistently one of the best ones that I've ever been to.
Really?
Yeah, the makeups are great. The houses are designed well. They're themed out well. You think about haunted houses, what do you judge it on? How well you get scared, what the theming and the art direction of the environments are, what the makeup's like, and what the storyline. Because a good haunted house has a storyline.
Even Haunted Mansion.
Yeah, and so you judge it on all that, and I think that Universal's is pretty probably one of the better ones I've ever been through, and consistently. So I don't know if you get a chance to go. I know it is in LA. I don't know about anywhere else.
Right. All right.
I'm sorry. I guess I was going to say I guess it's sort of weird because you'd mentioned that this part of Northern Ohio is big on haunted houses. Like you guys, like they even have like billboards and stuff up around here this time of year, like for like the local ones. And there's one called the 7 Floors of Hell, which is like 7 haunted houses apparently, and one thing. It's at the fairgrounds or whatever.
Canton or Akron also?
Yes, but this one is
they're all in Akron or Canton.
This one's in Berea, Ohio.
Oh, all right.
And it's just sort of funny that like, you just get sort of used to like at the end of September, all the haunted house billboards going up, which is sort of pretty cool thing to be thinking about. Cause you forget that stuff doesn't happen all over the place. So,
definitely not out here, not in, Bay Area.
People are jaded in California.
You think?
Yeah, I think that people aren't as easily impressed because everybody's seen everything out here. We have celebrities all over the place, and everything's all fancy. They're not as impressed by simple pleasures like haunted houses.
Well, then the other half of that is, I think I was talking to you about it, Frank. Was this place called McCamey Manor? Did you check that out?
Yeah, you told me about the website.
For those of you who don't know what McCamey Manor is,
it's one of these places you have to sign like all kinds of releases and shit. Like I think it's a gimmick.
I don't know. You watch the videos; it's pretty weird. Like if they run these all year round. It's not necessarily a quote unquote haunt like a haunted house, but it does play on people's fear. So what they try to do, and I gotta think that the people running this thing are really sort of sadistic. They actually go in and they like tie you down, and they like put like duct tape over your mouth, and then they just like there's no time limit.
Tickle you?
Yeah, no, they don't tickle you. They like put like a rotten egg in your mouth and then duct tape. You got to go look at the videos. It's like, why would you even want to do anything like that? I understand being scared,
silly.
and there's people that love being scared, but this is like a little bit over the top. So when you talk about that thing with the 5150, I'm thinking people are getting upset about that. Go to see McCamey Manor and see what.
Well, I mean, people get upset when it's some corporate entity they could point a finger at.
Oh, probably would they get some money from it, right?
Yeah. or like prove a point. I don't know. Like I've never heard of that thing you're talking about, so of course they're not going to go after it.
Well, I would love some recommendations. And has anyone done like a haunt tour, like for the month of October, every day, one haunt, cross country, document it?
There were some Travel Channel shows where they were showing the most extreme haunts and stuff like that. So it's been done, but not like that's a great idea, though. I think
combine that with the GoPro mount thing, and there you go.
This is your next business, Norm.
Yeah.
The month of October could be very, very lucrative for you. I think this is really good.
So we were talking a little bit last week about Westworld.
I was promised that we'd be the whole only reason I'm here. I flew down LA,
That's
Burbank,
just to talk
because I was promised we'd be talking about Westworld.
Oh, yes.
No, we're definitely not shooting tested videos.
No. We're talking. We're special guest this week. Talk about HBO's Westworld. All right. Yes. Did you guys talk about it last week?
We mentioned that we watched it, but we didn't talk about like. We should probably give a caveat that there's probably going to be some spoilers about the episode.
Yeah.
We're going to yap about it.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen it and you don't want it spoiled, why don't you pause the podcast and come back after you watch it?
Yeah, watch it. There's only 2 episodes out right now. So you'll be able to catch up quickly and then come back and listen to the end of this show here.
All right. So go ahead. What do you tell us your thoughts, Norm?
I love the show. The show has been built up for so long. So for people who don't know, Westworld is an HBO show. It's run by Lisa Joy and Jonathan Nolan, who's Christopher Nolan's brother, except without the accent. He has written many of Christopher Nolan's movies. It's been in the works for a very long time as a remake of Michael Crichton's book and movie that he directed, Westworld, in 1973. Movie, I believe. And it's like kind of the precursor to the idea of before Jurassic Park, and it's amusement park gone wrong. In the movie, there were 3 worlds. There was Westworld, Roman world, and
Medieval world.
Medieval world. And in the TV show, it is, as far as we know, just the singular Westworld, run by robots, occupied by robots.
Yeah, there's the robots, which are the hosts.
Yes, they call them hosts. That's right.
Yeah.
They're androids, so not cyborgs. These are wholly made artificial beings that are kind of like the future perfect version of your Disney audio animatronic. And they cater to the desires, needs, whims of the guests who pay, I believe, in the fiction of the TV show, $40,000 a day to visit Westworld. And so, it's only 2 episodes so far. At this point, I think we're going to talk about spoilers.
Yeah,
right? Yeah. The big conceit in this show versus the movie is that the protagonists, as far as we know, in the TV show are the hosts. It is told from the perspective of the robots. And so we're supposed to empathize with them. Mm-hmm. They're the potential heroes and villains of the show. I
don't know. Is Dolores going to end up being?
I think she's the hero. I think she's clearly the protagonist. Yeah. It's about her. And I mean, there are many protagonists, but I think she's probably the main one.
So do you think that Ed Harris is the main villain then?
I don't think so either. I don't think so.
You don't think so, really?
And so now we're moving into deep spoiler territory, because one of the great things I think that in the show that surprised people. So in the original Westworld, this is not the Peter Fonda one, which is Future World. Westworld was about 2 guests who go into the world. They go between different worlds, and when the robots go astray, they are hunted down by basically the original Terminator.
Yeah, it was Yul Brynner.
Yul Brynner playing the gunslinger.
Yep.
And this was a kind of a callback to his role in Magnificent Seven.
Mm-hmm.
And very similar, all black. And the way they designed the robots in Westworld, they all had like a silver glimmer in their eye.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like really cool design. They would like take their faces off. But he, like the other robots, went berserk, and he went and hunted down these 2 guests. And it was basically like a Terminator movie in the amusement park, which is like, what a wonderful idea, right? And so in leading up to the HBO series, they'd show photos and trailers, and they had the role of a man in black, the gunslinger, played by Ed Harris. And so everyone assumed, okay, this is it. He's the gunslinger, the version of the Yul Brynner character. And like, he's bald, he has the wrinkles. And you have these heroes like James Marsden, who played Cyclops in X-Men movies. They showed him as maybe a protagonist. And in the middle of the first episode, as Yul Brynner approaches James Marsden, and you think he's about to shoot him. Ed Harris. It is revealed, the big twist, that it is James Marsden who is the host. And Ed Harris, the man in black, is actually a guest who has been attending the attraction for 30 years. A VIP guest.
And can apparently do whatever he wants.
But that's the thing. Like, it doesn't matter who the guest is. Like, if you're a guest there, you can kind of do whatever. If you want to just kill the people, you can kill them. If
you can kill the robots. Yeah.
If you want to go like have sex with the robots, you have sex with the robots.
Totally.
But he's gone a little bit deeper.
Yep.
Yeah. We got in the second episode. There's allusions to a maze.
Yeah, so there's a meta story. It's not just this Jurassic Park or even the original Westworld story of the robots rebel or the robots suddenly become aware, which is, I think, part of the storyline. But then there's also this mystery, a very Lost-like mystery of what is the bigger picture and who is Ed Harris's character and why is he in search of this game. So there's a lot of like parallels. I think the showrunners and the writers of the show are very transparent of the fact that they look at modern video game culture and MMOs and RPGs and take those ideas to put into the TV show from character creation. So in the second episode, you have the actor who plays Billy, who is a new guest in the show. He picks out his clothes just like an avatar would do in a video game. And even at the very end, he picks between the white hat and the black hat. Is he going to be Paragon or is he going to be, a villain?
Yeah.
So I think the video game illusions are very I think, surface level, but
Sure.
the acting is fantastic. And,
Oh my gosh.
like for example, the father of Dolores in the first episode.
Yeah, how he goes from like the glitchiness and then what's his name? Who's the main scientist guy?
Anthony Hopkins or Jeffrey Wright?
Yeah, Anthony Hopkins asked him to access a different build, a different version of his programming, and there's like a second where it's like he's thinking, and then he goes into a whole complete that's excellent.
Yeah,
Right.
So they give you glimpses into. It's a lot to ask of these actors to play robots because they have to be very still, not just being very still. They have to be unhuman, but also in a way where they're trying to be human.
Yes.
So their line delivery, they have to almost be like, what is the perfect animatronic like? They read their lines like lines, but in between that, they are, they go about their business. And especially when they're undergoing diagnostic work in the facility where they're built, they're asked to, stare blankly and then recall lines, be different characters. Some of that is CG. So there's a scene where Anthony Hopkins is chatting with an old robot.
Yeah,
30-year-old.
We talked about this on the last episode.
Yeah.
Right?
And there's a little bit of subtle CG work where they literally took frames of his face and held it still while other parts were moving.
Oh, is that what they were doing?
And then did subtle compositing animation work. So that was a real actor.
It's done so good.
And it's done to make it look like the best animatronic
Of that age.
like a very it looks very flesh-like, but the movements and animations are still robotic.
Well, they also did a little bit of makeup on him too, just to make it look like he was, he was a little bit
the
rusted.
facial
or whatever.
features are a little, tweaked. Yeah. No, I think, and the makeup in this show is really good.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
that part in the first episode when they have the bank robbery at the end, and everybody, and that dude's face gets blown off.
Yep.
Some of
That's a great effect.
Really good.
One of the villains, because you're talking about character design. So one of the things they play on is that in the corporate entity that designs and owns Westworld, Delos, I think it is, they have a game designer or narrator or a narrative writer who designs the stories and picks upon Western tropes. So you have like a bandit played by Rodrigo Santoro and his assistants or his associates, this woman who has like a snake tattoo that runs around her body.
Yeah, and she had that rifle and just started picking people off. That was such a great scene.
Yep. There's also great music.
Yeah.
Great music.
Oh, yes.
It's all like current songs that are written like on the player
I think
piano.
that might be my favorite part of that show. There's so much to like about it, but you're like, I know this song. What is this song? So it's like a Radiohead song.
Yeah,
there was Black Hole Sun.
Radiohead.
They did Paint It Black during the bank rob scene. Like,
right.
Oh, or the saloon robbing scene. Yeah, it was really like. There's not a whole lot to not like about, and I went into this show like kind of prepared to not like it because I've heard so many like horror stories about the production, overhyped. But I love it so far.
It's also a very grand show. They filmed a lot of it in Utah, and it could have been a show that they did on Sci-Fi or I'm not saying a Netflix show, but like a lower budget show maybe. Because it's a relatively simple idea, but they went all out. HBO spent a lot of money to film the world of Westworld.
Yeah. It's.
I think I had read that this was supposed to be their answer to when Game of Thrones sort of runs its course,
right?
That they can sort of push Westworld into its place and build an audience. It's a pretty good show. I am there's a lot to like about it, like you said, and that subtle acting, just to go back to that for a moment, was really the thing that sort of struck me, only because it would be so easy as a unprofessional actor to sort of look at an android and start doing the robot or something, and and move real stiff. But no, there's that subtlety of really quickly their face changes enough that it looks like they're accessing something. It was really, really cool, and it was neat to watch. And you forget, and that's the other thing too. All the out of commission androids are these naked bodies. But what was really interesting about that to me was that there must be something, because they even look fake. They don't look like they don't look like real human.
I was curious
people.
about that. I was wondering if it was a mixture. So there was a scene in the first episode and even second episode where they have like the storage room, the storage floor, and they have these decommissioned robots, like you said, naked, lined up, in a grid pattern in a large room. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering, was it a mix of actors held in place and then also body casts and just like silicone mannequins or some CG even?
Well, from what I understand, it was Christian Tinsley's shop that did the makeup effects for this, and they I'm assuming they made a lot of bodies, and
because they'd be able to use them. I mean, it's
use
a part
them
of the story.
and again, for a lot of different parts. So, I mean, making a full nude dead body is not a cheap thing,
right.
And producers, when they start seeing line items that are costly, like a full nude dead body with hair and eyes and all that stuff, like they're gonna as a pre-production budget item, like they're not gonna want to spend that kind of money, but maybe they did. I don't know.
Well, they did put the budget on this. Apparently, is at about $100 million.
For how many episodes?
I don't know how many episodes.
Yeah, I mean, $100 million for 20 episodes?
No. HBO shows are usually 10 to 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing is the design of the robots themselves. So in the production design, they have these. They show the robots before they're fully human.
Yeah.
They're skeletons, and they have like they're kind of bathed in this milky liquid, and you have even in the opening credits, horses being constructed from their
those, like,
muscles and bones and sinews, which are beautiful props.
Mm-hmm. I think those are all CG. I don't think that any of that's
in the opening credits.
No, the main credits. I don't know if you guys have been watching Luke Cage on Netflix at all.
I tried. I hated it as much as I hated Jessica Jones.
Really didn't like it. I didn't like Jessica Jones. I like Luke Cage. It's a different feel. But
it's just these dumb, reluctant superheroes. I want to see superheroes being superheroes, not whining because they don't want to be a superhero.
That's the superhero story.
Well, I think
thank you, Stan Lee.
I think we're right in the middle because Daredevil. I like Daredevil. I think Iron Fist is going to be that bookend.
Daredevil micromanaging the shit out of 12 blocks.
But the opening credits of Westworld reminded me a lot of the opening credits of Luke Cage, of Daredevil, and I'm thinking that it might be the same company that does
doing the opening credits. No, I think the opening credits are great, and the soundtrack on Luke Cage is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's an excellent soundtrack.
Yeah. Back to Westworld. I don't know if we want to talk. There no show in recent memory. I think Mr. Robot maybe can compare, but has a fan base who's speculating on theories, a fast-growing fan base that has a subculture of theorizing episode to episode about scrutinizing every little detail.
I haven't gotten
taking
into that.
screenshots and comparing things left and right.
Really?
There's one theory that's going on.
Tell us.
I don't know. It might ruin a big twist.
It's a theory. It's not like you're one of the producers. Just tell us what you're thinking.
I haven't seen the first 4 episodes like some of the reviewers have yet, but it's a really compelling theory. I'll tell you this. I'll let you guys vote whether you want to hear it or not. I regret reading the theory because I wish now that if it's true, I wish it's something I would have experienced on the television.
Yeah, but you know what? Like I read all the theories about the next handful of Star Wars movies, and it doesn't take away from like the excitement of when you see that like play out.
All right, for the audience out there, then, if you really don't want to hear it, because we're in deep spoiler, and not even spoiler territory, we're in deep speculation territory now. Next 3 minutes. The theory is that you've seen both of you guys have seen the first 2 episodes,
yes.
right?
Yes.
And the second episode has introduces Billy and his friend, and the Man in Black. The theory is that the scenes with Billy and his friend are actually 30 years ago, and that Billy is the Man in Black.
Ooh, that's kind of interesting.
Then he falls in love with Dolores. Something goes wrong, and he stays in Westworld, and he becomes Ed Harris.
That's fascinating.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's one's in the present and the timeline's in the past.
Yeah, that might work only because I was trying to figure out why they introduced a new protagonist in the second episode. They
don't intersect. You have some characters intersect, like Dolores is in both, but the robots.
Ooh, I didn't even think about that.
Me neither. And when I read it, I'm like, oh, I like this. Oh, I wish I hadn't read it.
Yes.
Well, like part of me was when they had mentioned that they haven't had a mishap in 30 years.
Yeah.
I was thinking, well, I mean, the original movie was about 30-ish years ago.
Yeah.
Like maybe they were referring to
Right.
the
Yul
Yul Brynner gunslinger as the mishap from 30 years ago.
Right.
I don't know.
I don't know.
That's where my mind went.
Right. Exactly.
Ooh, now I want to go back and watch episode 2 and
With fresh eyes.
see.
It's so
Thanks
good.
a lot, Norm. You just ruined the. No,
problem.
I'm just kidding.
No
Yeah, he warned you, Len. Shut up. No, that's a good one. That's pretty cool. If that happens, that doesn't ruin it for me. Like I think that makes it like if that's how it plays out, that's fascinating.
And I think that's a better twist than, oh, that person was a robot all along.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Which we've
right.
done the whole Battlestar Galactica thing.
Yeah.
Like I don't need that again. That feels a little cheap.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really I'm digging it. I hope if you haven't watched it, sign up for HBO.
Yeah.
Get HBO Now or HBO Go or whatever.
But that I was reluctant about signing up for that. I'm like, yeah, I like Game of Thrones, but what do I need to really sign up for HBO? And then like I can't stop watching John Oliver, and now I'm hooked on Westworld. Like HBO's kind of worth it.
HBO is
at
good
this point. Like,
yeah. And
I think that Starz is the one that's effed up now. The only thing that Starz has is Ash vs. Evil Dead. Have you watched the new season of Ash vs. Evil Dead?
I haven't seen a new season. Finished the first season. I know a lot of people also like Black Sails, but I've never gotten to that either.
I never saw that.
And those are the two big shows on Starz.
Yeah, I started watching the second season of Ash vs. Evil Dead the other night.
It's good?
Great. It's exactly what the first season gave us. It's
all right.
That Evil Dead 2 kind of campy, over the top, like really great gory stuff. Campy,
Did Sam Raimi direct the first episode of this one too?
I don't
the
recall.
First season? Okay.
But it didn't. I didn't feel like it missed a beat. It was just like kept going. It was all right.
Yeah,
it was fun.
That's the thing. I think the biggest problem is there are so many shows to watch. It's like there's barely any time to just watch them, So it's a show that rises to the top like a Westworld. It's like, okay, I will make time to watch this because it is worth watching and worth my time.
Yeah. No, it is. It's good. Great. Good stories. Blah, blah, blah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So we are near the end of the show. We talked about haunted houses. Well, we talked a little bit about Halloween, and of course Westworld. But we have some people to thank. Is that correct?
Yes. We have our lovely tip jar we call Patreon. The two most favorite people to me in the world, Jason Moore and Eric Seglum. We love you guys.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Eric. We love you guys too.
Jason Moore was at Monsterpalooza.
Oh, very cool.
When we were there. And Eric was at DragonCon this year hanging out. So we get to hang out with those guys every once in a while.
Nice.
And then we got Simon Hollick, Brian Warner, Gerard Libby, Sarah Thompson, Charles Babbage, Eddie Haleko, Ricardo Murillo, Eric Mullins, Raymond Stanek, and Donato Sinanacano.
You gotta say it one more time. We're going to mispronounce it. He gets 3 shout-outs.
Sinanico.
Okay.
Sanicho. I think it's Sanicho.
No, I gotta have a
We
different
always
one
mispronounce his name. He actually wrote to me and told me how to pronounce it. I wrote it down on my computer and then I lost the paper.
Lost it. But
Yes.
thanks, guys. Thanks for kicking in. And
Yes. And what's coming up at Tested, Norm? Anything you can talk about?
Ooh, when is this episode going up?
This next Friday.
Not this Friday, but next Friday.
Next Friday. We are doing a live show in San Francisco. Frank's going to be there.
I will be there.
It'll be your opportunity to perhaps meet Sir Creepy Fig.
Yeah, we're bringing the creepy fig to the.
Yes, and meet us as well. Tickets are on sale now. It's somewhere on the website. It's on Eventbrite. And then what else can we say? Oh, by now you'll have maybe some of the videos that we shot here today, or this time that I'm down here, on the site as well. So
Yeah,
some projects.
We're building a couple of things with my fancy Universal laser. Thank you.
And how
Universal
was your
Laser.
trip to the Arctic? Was it?
It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, you could see all about that all over Tested. Lots of videos, lots of good footage, pretty. interesting stuff.
Yeah. And what else is going on? There's so much going on. We'll also, I'm going to give a shout out to DesignerCon because we're also going to be in mid-November at DesignerCon. And so that's in Pasadena, and you can find us there and hang out.
Yeah, we're going to put up a booth.
Yes.
A tested booth?
Tested booth. Frank's going to be there. Sean Charlesworth's going to be there.
Sam Cobb.
Who makes Automata. And Bill Duran's going to be there.
Yeah. Got a bit of the crew. Yeah.
Yep.
Very, very cool.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
So that's excellent. So, of course, go to tested.com. You're already here if you're listening. If you're not, go to tested.com right now. Leave us a comment. And go to our website, which is creature-geek.com. And, of course, as Frank mentioned, Patreon. Our Patreon page is patreon.com/CreatureGeek. Norm, you're online, N-Chan.
That's right.
On Twitter.
Yep.
We are frankippolito.com and lenperalta.com on Twitter. And go to tested.com, as I mentioned, and leave us some messages.
And let me know if there's any Oktoberfest or pumpkin beers that I need to try.
That's right.
Yep.
Month of pumpkin.
That's right. You can also write us at len@creature-geek.com or frank@creature-geek.com and we'll hit you back. Norm, thank you so much for being on this week's episode. And get out there and enjoy some of the haunts and the pumpkin beer.
Thank you.
All right.